You will be popular. You're gonna be popular.
Conclave has been awarded Best Screenplay at the Golden Globe Awards.
Oh, thank you.
A gripping story where Hollywood drama meets the mystery of the Vatican. One standout choice, director Edward Berger's bold use of red and purple throughout the film. But what's the significance of these colors and why are they key in moving the story forward? Let's unpack the deeper symbolism behind Conclave. Conclave won a Golden Globe for Best Screenplay this last Sunday. Have you guys seen the movie?
No.
Okay, so basically the movie is about the Pope dies in the Vatican and they're having to vote in a new Pope. There's a lot of drama behind the scenes trying to figure out who that is going to be. Now, I found it interesting that they use a certain color scheme because obviously they want to be as realistic to the Vatican and how they operate as possible while adding in some fiction, of course.
It's like historical fiction.
Yes, it's historical fiction. And two colors stand out. And we're going to look at them right now. Scotty.
Purple and scarlet.
Purple and scarlet. Okay, so first of all, I've got two questions for you. One, you worked in Hollywood a couple years ago. What's the deal with color psychology movies?
Well, colors can give you a sense of an emotion that they're trying to portray. So, if there's a lot of like stark contrast and red is a very like, it's just a very like color that catches your eye. Purple obviously being like a royalty. So I think it's the same reason why they have purple and scarlet in Catholicism, right? It's their meaning sacrifice, their meaning like royalty.
Here you have it, purple and scarlet. This is why they were putting it in the movie, because it's part of the Vatican, and they were trying to be, realistic, obviously. But you have seen scarlet and purple in a lot of other movies as well, right? Can you mention a few?
I think this kind of caught my attention when I started looking into some of the cartoons. We just did a thing on Ice Age, and they had a dragon that was part of the story that was a sort of a purple and scarlet color. But I started like kind of diving back into a lot of the Disney princesses and noticed, even Frozen, purple and scarlet.
Interesting.
She's in purple and scarlet. What's the new one with the stars? Make a Wish, something or other.
Oh.
I don't remember the name
Wish?
of that.
It's just Wish.
Wish.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's in purple and scarlet. Way back in Aladdin, purple and scarlet. So I think that's a theme that's utilized. And so it's interesting imagery, considering that the woman means a church.
We'll look at that in just a second, but I also want to mention Transformers.
Oh yeah, Transformers. That's right. We did catch it in Transformers.
You defend my family or die. Autobots, we're going to prove who we are.
Did you notice how Optimus is painted purple and scarlet while he's riding on a dragon?
So let's look at some Bible prophecy, because this is fascinating. Now, when I mention these texts, right? If you don't understand Revelation 17, this is a direct reference to the Antichrist. This is the Antichrist that we are describing right here. And we have a whole video on that, what the Antichrist is and what the mark of the beast is. Make sure you check it out because you will understand that a lot better when you watch that video. But we are going to look at the color science of purple and red that we see in the Bible in Revelation 17, which refers to a church. Interestingly, like you were bringing it up, Scotty. And at the end, stay tuned because at the end of these couple of verses, we're going to show you the purple and scarlet in the Bible and how it relates to the end times. But Revelation 17:1 says, "Come, I will show you the judgment of the great harlot who sits on many waters." Keith, according to Ephesians 5:25, what is a harlot or a woman in the Bible?
Yeah, generally in the Bible, and when it comes to prophecy, a woman represents a church. And it can be a pure church or it can be an impure church. And that's determined by context. So,
yeah. There is actually also a pure church being shown in the Revelation.
Yeah, we find references to Israel in the Old Testament being described as a lovely and delicate woman and things of that nature.
Harlot that sits on many waters. The Bible describes waters as people's tongues and nations. So.
Yeah, we got that right here. So the same verse also talks about that the harlot sits on many waters. But like you said, Revelation 17:15 says, "Then he said to me, the waters which you saw where the harlot sits are peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues." It's really cool. The Bible just explains itself.
Right. It's its own interpreter.
Yeah, you don't have to guess what it's trying to say.
Nope.
And on her forehead a name was written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and of the abominations of the earth. Revelation 17:5.
Revelation talks often about the Babylonian system, and the Babylonian system is really sort of in competition with God's system. The Babylonian system is a system of confusion. It's a system of blending together because back in Babylon, when they would overtake a nation, they would grab those people, no matter what they believed, and they would want to incorporate those people into their society. So instead of just saying, like, you're now part of Babylon, you can't do anything that you've done before, they would just kind of soak up what they were worshiping, what they were doing, and just kind of integrate them because the best people that want to serve your country are the best people that want to be there. And so the Bible talks about in the in Revelation, the system of Babylon is really a spiritual confusion. It's a blending of all these different church ideas together. And ironically, that is actually what we see in Catholicism. We see a blending of a lot of different spiritual ideas. That's why the Pope has the fish Dagon hat. I mean, there's a lot of different religious ideas that are blended together in that system.
In Revelation 17, it's describing it very well for a reason. Because when you get to Revelation 18, then that system, the Bible shows, come crashing down. This is where you have the merchants of the earth crying like, oh no, Babylon is fallen. Yeah, well, we've identified what Babylon is in Revelation 17 and other parts of the Bible. But in Revelation 18, it's fallen, it's laid bare. And it's interesting because if you look at this from a big, 30,000 foot perspective, the merchants, they're not sad that Babylon is fallen for any reason but themselves. In other words, I can't really benefit from this anymore. It's not about what's happening to the people or what's happening to Babylon or anything else. And they really embody what Babylon is teaching, which is really selfishness. So Revelation 18, from a big cosmic perspective, is there's a kingdom of selfishness. And then you see a demonstration of what God's people is like, especially in the early verses of Revelation 18, where they are spreading a message of love to the people of the world as history wraps up. And that love is, communicates the gospel in all its fullness.
Yeah. And when you look at Daniel 2, you see that Nebuchadnezzar had the dream of a statue, which was literally a dream of the nations, the world kingdoms, the most prominent kingdoms that were going to follow Babylon. So the head of gold of the statue was Babylon. Then there was the chest of silver and the arms of silver, which was Medo-Persia. Then you had the thighs of bronze, which was Greece, and you had the legs of iron and the feet of iron and clay. There's lots of different scholars from different denominations that understand this. But, this ideology of Babylon just crept down through the statue, through the nations over time. And once you got to Rome, out of which came the Roman Catholic Church, it was still mixed in there. It was literally, it's paganism mixed with religion, with Christianity. And we've got a show coming up about the origins of 666 and how, 666 actually is a symbol that references to the sun and sun worship, which is very prominent in the Roman Catholic Church as well. And if you look at some of the symbols of the Babylonians, a lot of the regalia of the Catholic Church include that as well, the exact same symbol. So there's absolutely a mashup still in Babylon. And we do want to say, for those at home who are Catholic, I was, attending a Catholic church when I was younger. I was baptized into the Catholic Church. I had to do my classes. I had been given a rosary to pray with. So we are not coming at you. We love Catholics. We are just sharing this out of love. And we have a lot of respect for anybody who is a Catholic.
And I think it's really interesting, though, that it's written on her forehead because that's her thinking, her reasoning, her mindset is a Babylonian selfish mindset. I like how you brought that up.
Yeah.
A kingdom of selfish versus a kingdom of love.
I think it's also more than that. God calls his people in the last days to be a kingdom of a nation of kings and priests, right? Kings and priests, kings royalty, priest, having to do with religious rites and services and ministry. But when you look at the Old Testament system and you look at the way God set it up, not the way man set it up, but the way God set it up, the priest had something written essentially in his forehead.
Holiness to the Lord.
And it was holiness to the Lord. It wasn't, Mystery Babylon the Great, mother of harlots. It was something entirely different. This is God's way of saying, this is what you should be
thinking.
And then in Revelation 17, you have God saying, this is what you are.
Yeah. And on top of that, of course, the final battle in Earth's history is going to be with the Mark of the Beast. The Mark of the Beast is in the forehead or in the hand.
Yeah.
Which
we have videos on that too.
Yes, the forehead, the frontal lobe, right? You think, you make decisions with that part of your brain. You worship God with that part of your brain. The hand is acts, or you get the seal of God right here. It's all connected. So yes, check that video out as well. Link in the description. All right, next verse. And the woman whom you saw is that great city which reigns over the kings of the earth. Revelation 17:18 and Revelation 17:1 and 2, with whom the kings of the earth committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth were made drunk with the wine of her fornication. Do we see this? Yes, we do.
Oh, it's no secret that the Catholic system, the papal system, has been very influential in world events and world history, economically, politically, just about every area of society. So when the Bible's, giving these signs and saying, it's committed fornication with the merchants of the earth, the inhabitants of the earth were made drunk. In other words, this has had great influence. We'll say that's probably a good word. Great influence over the whole earth. And not just any church can say that.
Yeah.
You can't just go to, whatever XYZ church down the street that exists and said, this has had great influence. But this one?
Yeah,
we can say
until
that.
1798, when that power was seemingly to be taken off of the world stage.
The wound was
given,
yeah.
inflicted, right?
Mm-hmm.
But isn't it interesting in our day and age that you start to see this coming out? I mean, I remember as a kid not hearing too much about this from time to time, maybe, but it seems like in my adult life, I've seen increasingly more and more presence and power, especially with the world leaders and everybody else giving attention back to this organization.
Yes. So let's take a look at a couple of clips that shows you how active the Pope is in meddling with political affairs and world leaders. Okay.
Gets around.
He gets around. He travels.
Yeah, he's definitely in some positions of power at this point.
So those are not the only points of interest here. Let's look at Revelation 17:9. Here is the mind which has wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sits. Do you guys know that the Rome was established on 7 hills? And we can see them right here in this picture. It's a Capitoline, the Quirinal, the Viminal, the Esquiline, the Caelian, the Palatine, the Avetine. So, hey, I can't find any other church or religious institution that is, according to the Bible, a woman is a church, that has all of these identifying marks and fulfills all of them. Revelation 17:6, I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I marveled with great amazement. I mean, I think we've lost count of how many millions of Christians died during the time of the Reformation because they were persecuted for their faith, because they were standing up to the system. We're like, yeah, we want the Bible. Living half the Bible in our own language, we cannot read it. And when they start understanding the Bible as it was being translated, they realized, wait a minute, you're the Antichrist system, and we don't want to worship you. We want to have our own faith. We want to follow the Bible and the Bible alone. And then they were slaughtered for it. Millions were slaughtered for it. And in fact, interesting note, we have a video on this too. The pilgrims who fled this persecution, who came to the United States, who were the forefathers of many people in this country, were actually had little notes in their Geneva Bible that said, we believe that the Antichrist is the papacy.
Interesting.
So, yeah. Revelation 17:4. Now we get back to the colors. What do these colors mean that they show in this movie, which they were pretty spot on with? The woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet and adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls, having in her hand a golden cup full of abominations and the filthiness of fornication. We looked at this earlier. Which church uses red and purple?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if there's any other ones that really do, but yeah, for sure, this is a prominent color scheme.
Yeah. And Keith, you said that in the sanctuary in the Bible, they also use these colors, but the Catholic Church is missing a color.
They did. They used the purple, they used the scarlet, but in the Old Testament, they also used blue. What's very fascinating is you find that color largely missing, at least in a prominent way, in Catholicism. And so the question is, why is the blue left? Now, I'm not saying, they did this on purpose. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. Maybe it's just, what happened through history and God is revealing like, hey, look what's missing, interestingly enough. But if you look at, it's an interesting story in Numbers 15. In Numbers 15, you can break this up into the sections in the latter part. One of those sections, which starts in verse 22, is the laws concerning unintentional sin. So after Moses had given, a lot of, had given the 10 Commandments, then they started to spell things out more specifically in certain areas. So you have the laws concerning unintentional sin. After that, you have another section called laws concerning presumptuous sin. So this is like your premeditated murder type stuff. It's like they knew better. Right after that, those two categories is a story. And it's a story that I will often point people to prove a point. And the story is about this man who is found out in the wilderness on the Sabbath day, and he's gathering sticks for firewood. And the children of Israel are not sure what to do with him. They bring him to Moses, and they're like, hey, we found this guy doing this. What do we do? Moses is kind of like, don't know. Let me go ask God. And so they take him to the Lord. And this is what God tells Moses. The man must surely be put to death. All the congregation shall stone him with stones outside the camp. So as the Lord commanded Moses, all the congregation brought him outside the camp and stoned him with stones, and he died. And this is one of those stories in the Old Testament that people look at and they're like, wow, that is really harsh. Like, at least it seems harsh. Like, what's going on? It's important to see this in context because you have the law of unintentional sin. After that, you have the law of presumptuous sin. And right after that follows this story. What's going on? There was some presumptuous sin. The Sabbath had been communicated. He knew. Fourth
commandment.
Right? He knew. But he went out and did his own thing anyway. So when you look at what's going on, the guy, what's implied is he's in rebellion. He knows. And he's basically saying, don't care what God says. I'm going to do my own thing anyway. And that rebellious attitude, of course, God being the ultimate judge, God knew like, this isn't changing. So he became, he received the penalty right then and there for death, because God is looking into his heart and saying, it's not going to change. And he's going to sow seeds of rebellion in other people. Right after this incident, God tells the children of Israel to do something to remember the incident. It's not the first time. He's done many things in the Bible where he tells them, do this so you'll remember, right? Even the Sabbath command starts with the words remember, right?
Yep.
If you look in the box, right, the Ark of the Covenant, there's 3 things in there.
You got manna.
For the purpose of remembering.
10 Commandments.
The manna, right? The 10 Commandments, and Aaron's rod that budded. Aaron's rod that budded happens right after this story, because you have the rebellion of Korah and all that. So anyway, getting back to this story in Numbers 15, what does God tell them to do? He tells them, you know what? Make some tassels on the corners of their garments throughout their generations, and to put a blue thread in the tassels of the corners. And you shall have the tassel, that you may look upon it and remember all the commandments of the Lord, and do them, that you may not follow the harlotry to which your own heart and your own eyes are inclined, and that you may remember and do all my commandments and be holy for your God. And then he reminds them, I'm the God that brought you out of the land of Egypt. When you read the story carefully, you're getting, he broke one of the commandments, and God said, well, to help you remember, put this blue thread in the hem of your garment. So the color blue is telling us something, right? God is using his own color science and saying blue represents my law, my commandments. We can see this in other places in Scripture. You look at Exodus 24:10. It says, and they saw there the God of Israel, and there it was under his feet, as it were a paved work of sapphire stone, and it was like the very heavens in its clarity. Sapphire stone at God's feet. What is this? Moses, Aaron, the elders of Israel, they're all on the mountaintop meeting with God, having lunch. And they see God sitting on his throne, and there's this blue sapphire stone there. There's another person in the Bible who sees this. This is Ezekiel. And he says, and above the firmament over their heads was the likeness of a throne, in appearance like a sapphire stone. And on the likeness of the throne was the likeness and appearance of a man high above it. So he's looking up and seeing the vision of God. A reference is this also in Ezekiel 10, where he sees this sapphire stone. So Lucifer, if you do an interesting study of the Bible, Lucifer has a top-down perspective of this, because he stands in the presence of God as a covering cherub, right? Like this. So his eyes oftentimes would have been looking down. When God references Lucifer in Ezekiel 28, it says he had this very distinct privilege, and that was to walk up and down in the midst of the stones of fire. Okay? You put all that together. What is this stone, right? Moses is referencing it. God gave him tablets of stone, which, if I remember right, I think there was a reference to those
being sapphire.
Sapphire.
I've studied that too.
And you have Ezekiel looking up, seeing sapphire, and you have Lucifer looking down and seeing stones of fire. Put it all together. This is referencing the law in some shape or form, right?
Wow.
Once again, just pointing us to blue. And one of the contentions in Protestantism versus Catholicism is the law of God. What is more important? Is it the Bible and God's law, or is it what the church or the magisterium says? And they have a tendency to put it on equal footing or even sometimes elevate
Mhm.
their tradition or the
Mhm.
magisterium above God's law.
Mhm.
So they even say in their own writings that changing the Sabbath, changing God's law, is a mark of their own authority.
Mhm.
Have you any other way of proving that the church has power to institute festivals of precept? Answer: had she not such power, she could not have done that in which all modern religionists agree with her. She could not have substituted the observance of Sunday, the first day of the week, for the observance of Saturday, the seventh day, a change for which there is no scriptural authority. Protestants accept Sunday rather than Saturday as the day for public worship after the Catholic Church made the change. But the Protestant mind does not seem to realize that, in observing Sunday, they are accepting the authority of the spokesman for the Church, the Pope. Question: which is the Sabbath day? Answer: Saturday is the Sabbath day. Question: why do we observe Sunday instead of Saturday? Answer: we observe Sunday instead of Saturday because the Catholic Church transferred the solemnity from Saturday to Sunday. The Church is above the Bible, and this transference of Sabbath observance from Saturday to Sunday is proof positive of that fact.
So that color blue, interestingly enough, throughout history is missing in their own color iconography,
Yep.
but it points to the reason of why it's missing.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good point. Thank you, Keith. So going back to this verse, it also says that it was adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand. Did you guys know that the Catholic Church is the richest religious institution in the world?
Probably has been for
I
centuries.
think,
Oh,
I
yeah.
think collectively, yes.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
you look at one organization, I think it's the Mormons as far as net worth. But after that is a whole bunch of individual Catholic churches, like the Catholic Church of Germany, the Catholic Church of this, the Catholic. But collectively, probably
yes.
Very rich.
So we talked about the Reformation. During the time of the Reformation, there were a lot of artists that actually came out and made paintings
Yeah.
side by side of Jesus on the mule and the Pope and how he was dressed up to protest, to make a statement. So this is actually a painting that's from Glasgow Life Museums, and art.uk has a description about it. It says, Christ and the Pope face each other. Christ is mounted on a donkey, wearing his crown of thorns and humble habit, making a blessing gesture. The frowning, richly dressed Pope, by contrast, is crowned with gold and rides a proud white charger. The poem in Germanic dialect below makes further explicit comparisons between the humble appearance and actions of Christ and those of the pompous Pope, referring throughout to Christ as the Lord and the Pope as the servant. The final summings up sentence translated reads, "The servant acts in opposition to the Lord." That's interesting. They show Jesus being a servant and the Pope being a Lord, but the Pope is actually supposed to be like Christ. Dating from the 16th century, this is a propaganda painting of the Reformation period with a clear anti-papal message. This is one of the several known versions of the work, which uses an image and message which originated as a woodcut print. This painting is particularly important as it sums up in a visual and easily accessible way the contemporary arguments for reform of the church and provides ideal material for various forms of interpretation. So, this is why a lot of people like Pope Francis nowadays, because he kind of stepped away from that kind of pomp, and like start driving his Pope-mobile, which is the smaller car and all those kind of things. But you got to bear in mind that the Pope Francis, is actually the first Pope from the Jesuit order. And if you watch any of our videos, we have got a few of them, the Jesuit order is in fact an order that was put in during the time of the Reformation as a secret society that was supposed to counter the work of the Reformation. They were supposed to actually dress up and act like Christians as Protestants and look humble and do the same thing, but then they could plant seeds to bring them back to the Catholic Church and back to the Mother Church. And they're highly active today as well. I encourage you guys at home, go check it out. We got a couple videos on it that shows you, and this explains why Pope Francis is dressed like this and acts like this, because he's a Jesuit and he is actually part of a secret society the Vatican puts in. I know this might sound absolutely crazy, but we've got facts upon facts upon facts that this is the case and that they're still doing the work of countering the Reformation. So, any last thoughts? Purple, scarlet, prophecy.
We have purple and scarlet on our set.
We do.
We do. and I don't think we put enable to except for Danique's phone.
Yeah. And you guys have blue eyes, so we're countering this thing
we're good.
right here.
We're good.
I think I'm toast, but no, I think it's really interesting once again to reaffirm that the Bible is such an amazing book.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really, it's interpreting what's going on throughout history, what's been, what's in the future, the past. And I think all these books are very important, especially the books of Daniel and Revelation for today's day.
Read it. Revelation 1:1 says the revelation of Jesus Christ. It matters as much as reading the Gospels.
Yep.
So,
Amen.
Cool. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please make sure you hit like and subscribe. It gets the video up in the algorithm so more people can see this. And again, if you want to learn more about Bible prophecy, make sure you check out our online free Bible school. It's lls.tv/Bible school. Link in the description.
Yep.
Also, make sure you check out our videos on the Jesuits and on what the Antichrist or who the Antichrist power is. 666, what is that? And what is the mark of the beast? I'm telling you, this is the time to look into this, to study it for yourself. And again, the Bible explains itself. Shockingly, the mark of the beast is not a barcode or a chip or even a vaccine. It's the Bible explains exactly what it is. And also, if you want to support our ministry, you can do so by going to lls.tv/give or patreon.com/littlelightstudios. We'll actually have a lot of cool behind-the-scenes stuff on there as well for all of our supporters. Or you can go to lightwear.shop and get some of our cool Christian merch that we designed. Keith's wearing one right now.
And we actually have a really cool new prophecy merch line.
Yes, coming up soon.
Still needs to be on the website, but it's coming soon.
It's coming soon.
Coming soon at lightwear.shop. It's actually the 4 kingdoms we mentioned from Daniel 2. Bible verse on the back. It's really awesome. So make sure you check that out and you can be a walking billboard for Jesus.
Amen.
Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.
Hey, subscribe to Little Light Studios en español. Vas a encontrar muchos videos de Little Light Studios que están traducidos en español y también contenido exclusivamente para nuestra audiencia latina. If you want to learn Spanish, a great way will be watching our videos for practice.
I'm sorry. Do we know each other? It seems like maybe we've met before. I don't know. This is, it's awkward though. Just as much for me as it is for you. I really wish I had a conversation starter. Oh, hey. Oh, what's on my shirt? Yeah, this is the story of the 3 angels' message from Revelation 14. Wow, that totally worked. You know, if you have trouble starting conversations like me, maybe you should try Lightwear.